Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremy Goodwin. I am an arts journalist, and I'm Len's guest for this edition of What Do You Want to Do?
Welcome to What Do You Want to Do, the show that will hopefully help you figure out what you want to do in life or reconnect you to what you love doing. Each show has a guest who is doing what they want to do, whether it's in their career or in addition to their regular job. Most importantly, we want to help you realize that no matter your age, you too can do what you want to do if you have the will to do it. Now here's your host, Leonard Kaplan.
Well, I hope you're right. I don't want to see the death of the newspaper. I like the feel of the physical paper. Some papers have gone to all digital. You have to look at them on your Kindle or your computer or your iPad.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it has to continue to work on dead trees, to run on dead trees. I have a sentimental affection for the printed newspaper, but everything I've said so far has been about the news organization, not the medium, or that's how I intended it. So
I see. No, I get it.
If they were to be,
you.
What's that? No,
I'm older than you.
I used to go out and get the paper on the porch. It was on the kitchen table every day, so that was part of my ritual growing up, teens. So I love that, and I don't want to see that go away. But if the printed thing became fewer days, but the news organization is sorry for all the shadows. If the print product gets reduced to fewer days, but the news organization is still there 7 days a week, I don't have a problem with that. If it even turned into more of a magazine format where on Sundays you just get a really nice, thick, nice put together newspaper. The problem is the ad revenue, and it's been decades now of news organizations trying to replicate the revenue they got from the printed page, which hasn't translated to digital.
Good answer, because you just said that the organization is more important than the medium that it's done on, and I agree. As long as it exists, you're still going to have that in-depth reporting. You're still going to have that expertise, and let's hope you're correct. I really do. Now, what about radio? You're on actual radio. There are a lot of podcasts. There's over 1 million podcasts right now, probably a little bit more. Do you see podcasting and radio as competitors or colleagues or what?
There's so much overlap with respect to the specific content, for starters. Radio shows get turned into podcasts. The actual show itself, like Tuesday's episode, This American Life is a radio show and a podcast. We have a daily talk show here, St. Louis on the Air, and they make their content available through podcasts. But the best podcast would be one that takes advantage of its specific form, I would think, which makes room for, extended storytelling. So I think they're different things. Certainly, if we're talking about public radio specifically compared to podcasts, they're just different things. We're reporting every day. We're carrying the live feed of the president talking. That's, an hour-long podcast about a 20-year-old murder or whatnot is just a different product, And I think a lot of the daily news podcasts are products of newspapers.
Right. Sure. You get the subject matter. Even back in the days when I was an intern for cable TV, we got our information from newspapers. The newspapers would give us the idea what to do for an on-air news story. So I want to make a comparison. Years ago, when my friend Paul Fay was alive, and you knew him, I believe. Did you ever meet him?
In passing.
Did you meet Paul? You met him in passing. But he was a very creative guy, and he was a filmmaker and a producer. I don't know if you ever knew that. And he said to me one day, he said, "There's too many people who think they're filmmakers. And that's not a good thing. So I kind of thought about that for a while, and I kind of agree with him in a sense. In one sense, I think it's good for everybody to have a platform if they want one, and to be able to try it out. There shouldn't be like an exclusive snobby club for it. On the other hand, there's a lot of people out there on YouTube today and on podcasts today that really, they're kind of clogging up the communication waves because they're not good. What do you think of that? You can disagree.
I mean, just to stipulate, social media has become an engine for misinformation, which is incredibly toxic to the body politic,
Yes.
To our form of government. So setting that piece of it aside, yeah, the removal of the gatekeeper is kind of the big change.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you can create something that will be available for other people to hear or look at. On the other hand, how do you make those people aware of it? In the gatekeeper model, you're working with a platform that exists and petitioning them to try to get on it, and then you successfully get on it, and you have the reach of that platform, and people hear your stuff. If you're just creating a podcast in your bedroom, you need to figure out how to get it out there. So I don't bemoan the, I don't know. I'm not going to tell someone not to make a video or not to make a podcast.
Sure.
I don't know that the poorer quality ones are necessarily elbowing out the better ones for space. I think that's, I'm not too concerned about that.
That's good. That's good. That's a good point. That's a very good point. All right. No more controversial questions. I'm going to ask you the standard, what do you want to do question that I always ask at the end of the show. Your path to where you are today, what would you advise a young person who would be the same age as you were when you were in my cable club? What would you advise them to do if they want to be a writer, if they want to be on the radio, if they want to be an entertainment reporter, any of that stuff? What would you tell them? They were here right now.
Well, writing advice is sort of its own universe of things. But first of all, if you're interested in writing, do it every day. Write all the time. It doesn't have to be for an audience. You don't have to worry about necessarily editing it. Editing and revisioning is its own joy and skill that goes along with it. But get in the habit of writing. Read a lot. This goes to anyone who wants to be a writer or a journalist in any way. Be curious about the world around you. Develop varied interests. Become a subject matter expert in some topic that not a lot of people necessarily know about is a great asset to have. The traditional, I think, reporter journalist advice is not necessarily to just study communications and go to journalism school, but to study something a little broader, like international relations or public policy, to get a firm grounding in some field, and then I do firmly believe, and not everyone does, but I do firmly believe that there's a technical level that goes with journalism that you should take those classes where you're taught the way you're supposed to do it, because there are skills you're going to need in the workforce. Although I will note that I've seen plenty of job listings that do specify having a degree, in some kind of a related degree. But I would just encourage anyone to have a broad set of things that you're studying. Maybe if you do have that communications related major, develop a minor in philosophy or in poetry or in art history or in, as I say, international relations. So these are kind of broad things, Len, but
yeah,
you
That's
know,
great advice.
being curious about the world around you. It helps if you like talking to other human beings. It's difficult to do the job without that in journalism. And the really practical thing is meet people, build connections, whether it's if you're in high school and you're a part of the Model UN or Harvard Model Congress, as I used to love to do, the latter, or you're in college and you have access to so many people, make those connections, write down the name, stay in touch. That's something that I'm terrible at. That's not something I've done, methodically, but I've also had opportunities that were related to, knowing someone who's in a position to perhaps offer you an opportunity. So I think that's the big picture that I would express. Oh, and also you can't care at all about being rejected, because you're going to be all the time, especially, working your way up. Don't take it personally.
Right.
Be willing to put yourself out there and to know things like it's probably wasn't personal. I don't know, a lot of those submissions, maybe they fall into a black hole. I don't know if everything gets read, but believe in yourself. Find a circle of readers around you. If say you're writing in more of the poetry novel realm, but have peers who are interested in the same thing and who will support you and give you feedback, but listen to that feedback. If it took me a long, long time to figure this out, if I say or write something and the reader or the listener didn't understand it, that's not their fault or problem. It's mine. I did not successfully communicate it. Now, is there room to expect the audience to have some level of participation? Absolutely. I mean, that's not an absolute rule, but generally speaking, if you find that your message isn't getting across, don't get frustrated at your audience, but listen, hear what they're telling you, hear the feedback you're getting.
College, is it necessary or is it unnecessary for a journalist?
Well, I think there's a level of training that's really important. I mean, people tend to say, oh, you'll learn on the job, but I do believe I think I got a great education at George Washington University. I lean on some of the stuff that I learned then to this day. It shapes my view of certain things. In that case, actually a little more in terms of the artistic, the literature and whatnot. But I believe in education, so I'm not going to advise anyone to skip college, but it's considering the costs, it's more and more, there's more and more interrogation of the importance of that Bachelor of Arts degree. So look into it, get some viewpoints, but I'm defaulting towards saying, yeah, go to college.
All right, last question. What about radio? How do you prepare for radio?
Man. Well, I mean, everything I just said was about journalism, generally speaking. So, I mean, all of that would apply if you aspire to be in public radio, I would think. But where I say read a lot, listen a lot, listen to your local public radio station, use your app somewhere to listen to other ones around the country, hear what other ones sound like, other people sound like, talk a lot. But, I happen to use an iPhone, and the microphone on that iPhone is actually pretty darn good. And the barrier to entry to create something is actually kind of low at the level of folks who are comfortable and privileged enough to have a computer, to have a smartphone. But from there, you don't need really expensive, specialized professional equipment to put together a podcast. So, give it a shot, put it out there. Don't be concerned with your follower count or the audience. Think about the product. and you'll find your audience, but just put it out there.
This episode is not the first time your name has been brought up either, because when Sarah Guerin, the boot maker, was on the show, she showed us the boots that she made for you, custom made boots.
That was a great thrill to pick that up.
Law enacted over time.
And that was a really fun. I did 2 parts with her, and this may be a 2-parter too.
Len, I'm so glad you asked me to do this. It's a pleasure and a privilege to do this, and I'm so glad you're doing this project. And just thinking within the universe of the Cable Club, the number of interesting people that you've made connections with, that was a good crew. And there were several generations of the Cable Club. I was there for 4 years in high school, but the way you've managed to stay in touch with people and to support the professional and artistic projects that people are involved in is tremendous, I think, too, Len. So thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you. It's just, this show is an excuse to say hi to those people. Not only that, but it helps bring people back in touch. And that's one of the things I like about it. And I also like the fact that we can kind of introduce people to different professions that they may have thought of, but not dared to consider in real life. But we say, why not? So
thank you,
Jeremy
Len.
Goodwin, thank you very much. Don't be a stranger. And until next time, this is Leonard Kaplan saying, what do you want to do?